First, in the vast and violent chaos of the Second World War, that means WW2, where nations clashed and strategies shifted like tides shaped by fire and steel, there rose an engineer whose mind reshaped the silent battlefield of innovation, an engineer whose brilliance changed the invisible war fought beneath the surface of the world, a war of codes, machines, deception, and invention. This is the extraordinary story of the engineer behind one of the most brilliant devices of WW2, a man who stepped into the shadows of secrecy and emerged with a creation so powerful that it altered the course of history without ever lifting a rifle. Our story begins long before the thunder of war echoed across continents. It begins with a young mind fascinated by puzzles, patterns, and the hidden mechanisms that govern the world around us. He was not drawn to the battlefield, nor to the politics that tore nations apart. He was drawn instead to the quiet elegance of logic, the beauty of mathematics, and the idea that a machine could think through problems faster than any human. This passion would lead him to become the engineer whose device changed everything. As nations prepared for conflict, their armies armed themselves with steel, aircraft, and artillery. But a different kind of power lurked beneath the surface, the power of information, messages, codes, and secrets that could determine victory or defeat. The Axis powers believed they had created an unbreakable system, a coded machine that generated an endless stream of shifting possibilities, a machine that seemed invincible. This device, once thought impossible to crack, was the infamous Enigma. But where most saw impossibility, this engineer saw a challenge, a puzzle crafted in iron and wires, a riddle begging to be solved. He stepped into the dim rooms of a secret facility where the air buzzed with urgency and the walls echoed with whispered calculations. Rows of analysts pored over cryptic signals, intercepted from enemy transmissions, but their minds alone could not keep pace with the relentless speed of Enigma. The Axis commanders changed their settings daily, creating millions upon millions of combinations every 24 hours. Each day was a race against time, a race where failure meant lives lost, supply lines wrecked, and battles surrendered before they even began. And so the engineer proposed an idea, radical, daring, and almost unbelievable. He envisioned a machine that could defeat another machine, a device capable of sifting through countless possibilities faster than any human brain could hope to achieve, a mechanical mind built not for destruction but for deciphering truth from chaos. His colleagues doubted him at first. Some argued it was impossible, others believed it could not be built in time, but he remained firm, unwavering, driven by the belief that technology could become a weapon more powerful than gunfire and more decisive than bombs. And so he began crafting what would become known as the bomb, a code-breaking machine that would stand as one of the greatest technological achievements of the war. Constructed from metal rotor circuits and an intricate arrangement of spinning drums, the device was designed to mimic the patterns of the Enigma and sift through settings with astonishing speed. Day after day, night after night, the engineer and his small team worked tirelessly, refining gears, testing circuits, and overcoming countless failures. Each setback pushed them closer to breakthrough, each spark of insight illuminated the path toward victory. Time was not on their side. Enemy transmissions grew more complex, strategies shifted, and the world waited unknowingly on the shoulders of a machine that had not yet come to life. But the engineer refused to surrender. He believed that even in the darkest moments, logic could pierce through uncertainty, that ingenuity could overpower intimidation, and that the right device could change the course of humanity. Then came the moment that changed everything. The day the first bomb roared to life, its rotating cylinders spinning like the heartbeat of a mechanical titan, its gears whispering through millions of permutations each second. As analysts fed encoded messages into the machine, it searched tirelessly for the key, the one elusive combination that would unlock the encrypted doorway into the enemy mind. And when it worked, when it finally cracked the once impenetrable code, the effect was immediate and monumental. Allied forces began to read enemy messages in near real time they uncovered submarine routes, ambush plans, supply schedules, hidden strategies, and the very intentions of enemy commanders. It was as though a veil had lifted and the fog of war had parted, revealing truths that once lay buried beneath a labyrinth of encrypted whispers. Naval convoys were redirected, saving thousands of lives. Air raids were foiled, armies avoided traps, fleets intercepted enemy vessels with uncanny precision, all because one engineer dared to imagine that a machine could outthink another machine. But the story does not end with the bomb, because the engineer was not satisfied with merely breaking a code. He envisioned something far greater, something that transcended the war itself. He believed machines could compute more than ciphers. He believed they could one day solve equations, reason with logic, and maybe even think. This idea was far ahead of its time, yet it was here, in the pressure cooker of wartime necessity, that the foundations of modern computing began to form. Each improvement he made to the code-breaking machines nudged them closer to the concept of a universal machine, a device capable of performing any calculation given the right instructions. He pursued this vision quietly, tirelessly, and despite the immense secrecy surrounding his work, he laid the groundwork for what would one day become computer systems that would reshape the world long after the war concluded. Still, the war demanded everything from him: the long hours, the pressure, the responsibility of knowing that each mistake could cost lives. But he endured, driven by the belief that his work had meaning beyond himself, and through his unwavering dedication, his device gave the Allies one of the most decisive advantages of WW2. Historians would later estimate that his invention shortened the war by years, saving millions of lives and shifting the balance of global power. His brilliance, however, was not celebrated at the time. Even after the war, his achievements were locked behind classified documents and secured walls. The public never knew the extent of his contribution. He faded into obscurity, rarely recognized for his genius, rarely honored for the impact of his creation. He was a silent hero, a man whose machine saved the world, yet whose name remained buried beneath layers of secrecy. While others basked in recognition, he faced misunderstanding, isolation, and even injustice. But none of that diminishes the legacy he left behind, because today we understand the magnitude of his work. We know that his bomb was not simply a wartime device, it was a catalyst for the digital revolution. It paved the way for computers, cryptography, modern cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and nearly every technological advancement that shapes our world now. The phones we use, the communication systems we rely on, the algorithms that guide daily life, all trace their origins back to the brilliance of one wartime engineer, the man whose mind illuminated the shadows of war, whose ideas transcended the battlefield, and whose mechanical masterpiece cracked the code that once plunged the world into darkness. His legacy lives on in every microchip, every software program, every device capable of computation. His inspiration reaches far beyond the era he lived in, stretching into the future of human innovation, shaping how we think, how we connect, and how we solve the impossible. Yet to truly appreciate his impact, we must look beyond the machine and into the heart of the man himself. He was not a warrior, not a politician, not a leader of armies. He was something far rarer. He was a thinker, a creator, a visionary. His brilliance was not forged in the flames of battle, but in the quiet, persistent rhythm of logic. His greatest weapon was not steel or fire, but thought, pure, unrelenting thought, free from fear, free from limits, and free from the constraints of normal imagination. This is what made him extraordinary. This is what made him capable of building a device so powerful that it struck at the very core of enemy power, unraveling secrets they believed unbreakable, exposing strategies they believed invincible, and proving that the sharpest weapon in war is the human mind, guided by the courage to innovate. Through his device, intelligence became a weapon, information became ammunition, and knowledge became a shield against destruction. But more than that, his invention symbolized something timeless: the idea that even in war, human genius can shine as a force for protection, not annihilation for saving lives, not taking them, and for building a world where machines serve humanity rather than harm it. His contribution teaches us that greatness often comes not from seeking glory but from doing what must be done, even when no one is watching, even when no recognition awaits, even when the world may never know the extent of the sacrifice, and yet he gave everything to his work because he believed in something greater than himself, and in doing so he became one of the most influential figures of the